Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not to Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about OnePunch-Man, Season 2, Episode 9. Great episode, a lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So immediately picking up where the last episode left off, with Saitama confronting Bakuzin. I think I finally remembered his name this time. And he's running his mouth off of like, oh, you're some hero that didn't get scared. You're going to try and challenge me. But then he gets a better look at Saitama and realizes who he is and kind of gets freaked out. But he's like, no, I'm a monster now. I'm so much stronger than you. I got this. Ha ha ha. And Saitama's like, wait, do I know you? And you're like, oh. Saitama, it takes a while for Saitama to really remember someone, but that's almost in that Spider-Man thing. Like, he's unintentionally doing, like, Spider-Man smack talks his villains, but it's almost like Saitama does that unironically because he's not even doing it on purpose. He legitimately is like, I don't remember you. He even says later on, I don't remember, like, most of the people I knock out with one punch. If you're a monster that gets killed, he's definitely not going to remember you. Because it's like it takes people popping back into his life. I'm sure he knows Sonic now just because Sonic's consistently in his life. And if you leave a big enough impression on him, like Siryu did, so. But either way, the guy's like, I talked about this during like the Siryu fight too. I love it when people smack Saitama and he just like slides across the floor because he looks over at Sourface and some of the other knocked out fighters, and then Bakuzin like kicks him and he just slides and stops like right in front of Sourface, and he's like, oh, it's you guys, and he's like, like look at the power of my might, ha 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 ha, and he's hitting him, and Saitama's just like, just confused by everything and ended up killing the guy. He's like, what was that guy's deal? Who the hell was he? And then Siryu had to explain, oh yeah, that was Bakuzin. Remember the guy you fought in the second round? He was like, oh, that was that guy? And he's just like, oh, poor bastard died not being remembered. Kind of came down to nothing. And so we never found out why Saitama was so late, but he does feel bad because he's like, oh man, as a hero, I should have stepped in. Like, he never bothered explaining like what he was doing. Like, did it take him that long to put his costume on or something? Like, well, to be fair, he was running away from some officials and he was probably ducking, trying to make sure no one caught him. Because he also revealed himself too. He was like, oh yeah, my name is Saitama, I'm a hero. And then Siri was like, oh, you used a fake name? He's like, oh, crap, I shouldn't have said that. He's like, don't ever admit to anything. Because they never did get the opportunity with everything, all the craziness going down. They never had an opportunity to properly vet his identity. I mean, those in the know, like Snake knew he wasn't who he claimed to be. And others saw through it, but like I said, the officials never got an opportunity to officially like cast a ruling, even though they did disqualify him and stuff like that. But Saitama's kind of like, right, like I should have been out here helping. And he's like, oh, like, yeah, stay here. Siryu's like, stay here. There's one more monster out there. It's scary, powerful. But he's like, okay. And he walks off. But Siryu's like, no, don't go. Like, there's such dangerous monsters out there. All that's going on. You're safe as long as you're here. But like for Saitama, it's like, well, I need to go do this because this is what a hero does. And poor Siryu being very sincere when it's like, hey, you're the guy who saved my life. I don't want you to go off and die. And he couldn't stop Saitama, and then you hear stuff in the distance, and then like, yeah, Go Ketsu doesn't get an on-screen death. His death happens off-screen, and his head comes flying into the ring, and it's like, yep, he's dead and dealt with. It's like, cool. So he comes over to Siryu, he's like, yeah, so about the whole who I really was and pretended to be someone else, let's kind of keep that quiet. And obviously Siryu's like, of course. He's like, can I ask you a question? Asking him about like why he did all of this, and he explains like, right, I wanted to learn about martial arts. It's like, I heard about the hero hunter, and he's like, oh, you want to use this as a strategy to understand him? He's like, no, it just kind of got me thinking of like, oh, maybe I'll find some strong people here, and it's like I did all this because I was bored, and I think Soryu himself kind of sees like a little bit of like, especially because he's not going to be the same after everything because he's become so humbled after everything. But I think like, oh, you kind of had that perspective I did, that you were bored and stuff, and you're just kind of trying to kill some boredom. But it's also like you have the immense strength to back it up. So he asked him like, yo, do you think I have what it takes to be a hero? And Saitama's like, no idea. But he's like, but he's like, if I was able to become one, anyone can. Because he's telling him, like, it's okay to be scared. He's like, I was scared when, when I was first starting out as a hero. And then, like, I kept working at it, getting stronger until I became, like, too powerful as I am now. He's like, okay, one more question. It's like, okay, sure. Can you take me as your disciple? It's like Thomas smiles and laughs. Absolutely not. One is enough for him, so... But I could definitely see Serial being like, nah, but I'm still going to stick around you. I'm going to be your unofficial disciple. We'll see if anything happens in that front. Because I'm sure Genos is going to have some questions of, wait, what happened when I was away from my master? It's like, well, a lot happened while you were indisposed at the time. Because last time we catch up with Genos is in this episode where he's being taken away, I guess, sent back to the doctor to get repaired, so... The monster he was worried about, saying like, oh, we should gather all the S-class heroes to go after him. Is like, yeah, Saitama killed him off screen. It was nothing. So it wasn't even some build up and he was like, blah, blah, blah. We never even got to hear his final words. It's like, nope, his head got knocked off and went flying into the ring. So that's that. And by the time like Saitama's in the mix of things, most of the enemies have disappeared, so they're not on the full blown assault. They've kind of were starting stuff and then disappeared. So he talks to like some of the knocked out heroes, and he's like, man. And then he starts kind of like it's so interesting because like he has a very introspective section of the episode at this point where he was associating fighting heroes, fighting monsters with like curing his boredom. And he's kind of like, no, that's not the right approach and right mindset. He's like, I think I'm forgetting something important about why I wanted to be a hero in the first place. It wasn't just to kill my boredom, but now it's become part of like the boredom routine. And he ends up running into King, and he's like, yeah, I'm just thinking about some stuff. And King's like, don't worry, with enough stuff, like, it'll go. He's like, no, it's not my hair that I'm worried about. It's like, the fact is that he's like, I've grown bored with all this. He's like, because I've become so strong that, like the boredom comes about because like there's nothing higher. Like I can't become stronger than I already am. I've kind of reached my peak. And so he's like, life becomes boring because now it's like, being able to grow is a beautiful thing because it's fun to grow because it means you're challenging yourself. And it's like, well, what's left to challenge? I'm still beating everything with one punch. So like life has become boring. No matter what I do, I'm kind of bored. I don't feel anything from fighting enemies because even the quote unquote tough enemies still get, because he even brought it up about Bakuzin. It's like, yeah, not Bakuzin, Goketsu. It's like, yeah, killed him in one blow just like everybody else, so... And it ended up being this interesting speech with King where he talked about the fact is, well, why don't you try this? And he's like, it's like, because he's like, oh, you're lonely. Like, yeah, it's kind of lonely at the top when you're just kind of like, because no one can understand you. No one's technically your peer. But he's like, oh, why don't you make some friends? He's like, because I'm not interested. He's like, okay, so you're lonely and feel bored because you can't do anything because you feel like you've grown as far as you can grow. But then you're not willing. You're also a little bit of a contradiction because you aren't willing to actually try anything, unless you're interested in it, despite you being bored. It's like he is a walking contradiction in that regard. But King says something very insightful, which we later on, build it up to be like, oh, this grand speech. I was like, it's going to be some punchline to it. And the punchline is he read it from a manga, but it still resonated with Saitama where it's like, obviously, you think you're the ultimate hero, but obviously you're not. Yes, you might be strong, but you still have plenty to grow because the role of what it means to be a hero is to be strong and to fight for people and be courageous. And it's like you're missing some of like the heroism elements of it, of like your reason for doing it. You kind of lost that along the way of just kind of, it became a thing that you sought after and it was your dream, and now that you become super strong, that dream is kind of faded to the background. You kind of lost the plot essentially, and just lost why you were doing this all in the first place. What drove you to want to be a hero? I mean, we saw your first heroic situation before you became the overpowered being that you are. Once again, he also doesn't know that, and who knows if he'll ever get credit for it. Because that's another thing where he's just like, wait, I don't need attention to be a hero. Like I said, he's kind of losing the plot. But it's like, you have a lot more attention than you realize. I mean, people will never know. Even the person who started the Hero Association will never know. once again, they've never clearly stated this, but when we're introduced to the element of how the Hero Association got started, when we learned that last season, it's like, well, it's definitely got to be the kid that Saitama saved 3 years ago before he officially began his run as a hero and training and stuff. It's like, right, he had hair back then. It's been 3 years, so the kid probably only saw Saitama the once too. So him being bald out, he might not associate him, so it's like that's a pretty powerful legacy that you're what jump started the Hero Association being a thing in the first place. And I don't know if that would give him any, not glee, but would that give him any satisfaction knowing like, oh, like I'm the reason why I kind of paved the way for there to be an association of heroes. I kind of paved the way for the future run of heroes. I mean, heroes were already a thing, but the Hero Association wasn't the massive network and enterprise that it was essential, that it currently is. Then we also had Garo escaping from Watchdog Man because I guess because he's been going one battle after another, and despite as strong as he is, even his techniques as a martial artist can't really compete with someone who's kind of freestyling, running on all four. It's like it's not equatable. And lo and behold, while Saitama and King were talking, he sees King. He's like, oh, I'm going to attack him. And then just when he's about to attack King, he's like, oh, predict what move he's going to make. And it's like, it's funny considering like King isn't a superhero really. He's just a regular dude playing the role of a superhero. But it doesn't matter. It's all a moot point because Saitama just like kicks Garo into the wall. It's like, do you know who that guy was? And King was like, I have no idea who that was. It's like, man, so weird. He's like, man, this whole hero hunter thing, I hope that I can run into Guy one day, and hopefully, when I was interested in the guy who hunts heroes, he's like, yeah, I hope he lives up to my expectation. King's like, yeah, I hope you end up running into him one day. And it's like, not realizing, did you not only taken this guy down once, you've technically taken him down twice, which is so funny too, considering like the bang of it all, where he's talking to his brother about them helping out with all the monsters, but it's like, oh, what, and his brother was like, well, what if some other hero or situation ended up dealing with Garo? And he's like, nah, that's not possible, because he wouldn't be that weak, because I made sure that he wasn't when I trained him, but also that's the reason why I have to be the one to nip this in the bud. No one else can defeat him but me. Once again, ironically enough, he had to run from a fight that against Watchdog Man, but also he lost to Saitama twice. He doesn't remember the first time. We'll see whether or not he remembers the second time or not. And even if he does remember what happened to some degree, he'll probably think it was King, because Saitama probably moved so quickly and it kind of came out of nowhere. He's going to assume King did it and completely ignore Saitama. And I'm wondering when when it will all click, that, because to be fair, Saitama also wasn't in his suit, his costume, when him and Garo first met. It happened so quickly, I don't even think Saitama recognizes him as the guy that he thought was trying to like rob him or whatever before he got his wig playing Chironko. What was it, a hero? Is it Zombie Man? We saw him following, because he was planning on following the gorilla monster guy to back to the headquarters, and I love that he ends up running into somebody, and it's someone big and broad. I'm like, who is that? It turns out it's the gorilla from the House of Evolution. I was like, hey, we haven't seen you since you and Scientist Dude. We caught like a quick cameo of you guys. It's one of the later episodes, maybe 11 or might have been 10 or 11 of last season. We saw a small glimpse of him, and I love that he's there. And it's like, hey, are you a monster taking on a human side? But it's like, to be fair, he's out of the mix of all this because him and the doctor, like the scientist dude, like stepped back from all of that. They just kind of been living regular lives. I mean, I think all the other monsters are dead. I think the gorilla dude's the only one that was alive. So I love that he ends up dispatching of the guy because the guy's running his mouth off about how much of a disgrace he is, and then he just super punches the guy, knocks him out. And he's like, yeah, I was just going out for groceries. And now Zombie Man's like, oh, I'm going to follow him. It's like, well, you're going to follow him to nothing. You're just going to go back to their apartment where they're chilling, Because they had, like, last time we saw them, like, they just had a regular apartment. So nothing worthwhile will necessarily come of that. Not unless this situation leads to them kind of getting folded into the Hero Association in some shape or form. And then finally, we have the Hero Association trying to decide what they're going to do because they're trying to understand what the monster association's actually aiming for, what they're trying to get out of all of this. And we end up finding out. Oh wait, there's actually another plot point I completely forgot to talk about, but I'll talk about that in a second. This is actually how the episode ends, but there's one more thing I need to circle back to, but I'll get to that next. But the Hero Association's kind of thinking like the Monsters Association's doing this to try and strike a deal. Like, oh, we're trying to like orchestrate all this to kind of make a point. We're holding like that executive son hostage because we want to strike a terms where you'll stop hunting monsters. And they're kind of like, fine, we'll give the monsters whatever they want, or at least pretend to. But it's like, well, they go through the trouble of like, this isn't just about like what you've done to monsters. They're trying to conquer the world based on what some other people have said at a different point in the episode. So I can assume that's their only motivation. This is about just crushing the Hero Association and, you know, getting rid of any obstacles in their way of making this world their own. I can only assume that's it, but we had that one guy come in. It's like, oh, there's a message from the Monsters Association. And he repeats it. I was like, was that a glitch? And I was like, nope, he is repeating it. And it's like, yeah, there's some kind of slug or some creature coming out of his head on both sides. They are delivering the message. I don't know if that's the main pink guy that acts as Orochi's like right-hand guy. I don't know if that's like some power he has. But I'm curious what the message is, and is it going to be like, oh, I want your complete and utter surrender, or what? Like, what is Orochi trying to gain? Like, it's unclear. Like I said, other than like the two people that Sonic ran into, because he's up there training, trying to get better to go up against Saitama, and he gets approached by, he's from like, was it Final 44, and these guys are from like some 37 village, and apparently Sonic's like the last person from his village or something, like the only survivor, something like that. Who knows if we'll really get into that, which I'm almost like, is he supposed to, I'm sure like a lot of characters can fit that motif, but I'm also like, Ninja, the last of your people, I'm like, you supposed to almost be like an Uchiha parody? I don't know. Like a Sasuke parody from Naruto. I don't know. Like, I'm sure like, there's probably plenty of people he could be applicable to, but I would have never thought about the Sasuke parallel until they introduced that background element. But the guys in front of him have become monsters, and what they said kind of resonates with Saitama. Because like the person they're trying to go after, I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, they want to go after Flashy Flash. They want to make him suffer. I guess like he's kind of in the same like ilk of like maybe warriors that they are, so why they have a personal vendetta against him. And Sonic originally wasn't going to listen until he saw their overwhelming speed and power, and it's like he's always relished his speed and being unstoppable. Only person that ever outpaces him has been Saitama, and now for someone else to step up, it's like, well, if I really want to become stronger than Saitama, like no matter how much I train, I'll never beat him. So that reality and that crushing defeat stays with me. So fine, I'll eat this monster cell. But we see later on, he ended up cooking it. Because at first I was like, is he going to change his mind and not do it? But then he cooks it. I was like, is that going to, don't tell me that's going to defeat the purpose of it. And lo and behold, it does. Because the only thing he got out of it was diarrhea. Somehow you cooking it stopped you from becoming a monster, but tore up your stomach, funny enough. I guess like, because it seems like it's like a living organism. So I think it's a thing of when he cooked it and killed it. And maybe when it's dead, basically, when you eat it when it's dead, like all the factors that make you into a monster are completely like, it needs to be alive. You have to eat it live for it to kind of be producing whatever chemical or whatever substance or element to it makes you into a monster. And now that he cooked it, it's like dead, and it's all those elements are burned away or whatever. I guess you could almost look at it as like, oh yeah, that, you know, you heat something up, the bacteria is supposed to kind of, you know, be killed in extreme heat. So maybe there's correlation there as well. An element I completely forgot to talk about is Pori Pori Prisoner fighting that porcupine monster. And he's like, oh, I can't really do anything, get close, because if I do, I get punctured. And then there's people nearby like, oh, Prisoner, why don't you use that, ball and chain that's on your leg to kind of fight? And he's like, oh, they're cheering me on. It's like, sadly, they can't hear each other. So, but they're like, oh, he can't hear us. Like, they actually gave him solid advice. And it is kind of interesting that he never bothered doing that. He never used that. his takeaway was like, oh my God, their love and admiration, they're cheering me on. But he's like, oh, love, that's the question answer. So he's like, great, I'll give them all the love and take all the pain. So his takeaway was, I'm gonna squish you and hug you, because it even says like, oh, free hugs or whatever, and then he hugs it and basically kills it by crushing it in the process. And even everyone's else, like, because everyone did ask the question, does he really have to fight naked? What's that all about? Also, they're also like, oh, he kind of looks a little scary, because the fact is, he's, I think it's like, well, if we didn't know he was a hero, it'd kind of look a little scary, him muscular the way he is, naked, covered in blood the way he is. But then he also finds out about, like, his lovelies that were taken from him, his fellow prisoners who, like, because a couple episodes ago, there was that monster that broke into the prison looking for prisoner and ended up getting the other prisoners instead. So they might have been turned into monsters, sadly. And that obviously pissed prisoner off learning this. Very, very interesting development. It's going to be interesting to see what the next episode has in store for us. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.